Trixie. Okay.
Sorry about that, Melissa.
Can you guys see? That's okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can. Website.
Okay. All right. So the issue with online SNAP is that prior to COVID, there were SNAP participants were not able to use their EBT card for online purchasing anywhere except for in 2018, I believe, there was the USDA started a pilot project for online SNAP, and it was just in 4 states, and they had an open RFP for retailers to self-select whether they wanted to participate or not. The bar was pretty high, and the staff commitments were pretty intensive from the retailer's perspective. So in the pilot program, it was only Amazon and Walmart were the only 2 retailers. So fast forward to, public health crisis, everything shutting down, really wanting to support social distancing options for everyone, regardless of income. And so that became the platform for having a conversation about what can we do to expand online shopping for SNAP participants so that they have the same opportunities as anybody else to make purchases from home and be safe and then just go pick it up. And so as you can see from this screenshot or from this page, the acceleration has been pretty quick from the first 4 states to these states. Now we're up to, I think actually it's more than that as of today, but it's moving quickly. So these are the states that have currently been approved, and then these are the states that are in the hopper. So we're quickly moving into a national policy space. So the way that the protocol works is that you have to, each state, and I beg your pardon if I'm telling you stuff that you already know, but I just want to cover all the bases. But so each state gets their SNAP dollars in a block grant, and then whatever state agency manages those, it's not the same in every state, but whatever state agency manages the SNAP program, if they want to participate in this pilot, then that state agency has to make an application to the USDA through the FNS and Food Nutrition Services Division. So in Arkansas, that's the Department of Human Services, and in that we've been working with Larry Crutchfield on that and to get an application going for Arkansas. However, what we also wanted to think about was how can we take this moment to support our local farmers and farmers markets and whatnot, because currently, in addition to the limitations being just with Amazon and Walmart, it also does not, no other state has included their Department of Agriculture and or other retailers, with the exception of New York and Alabama. And so what we are working on in Arkansas is that we have established a stakeholders kind of working group, an online SNAP working group that includes representatives from Arkansas Department of Ag and Arkansas Department of Health and a state senator, Greg Letting, and Representative Denise Garner, as well as some municipal staff and Arkansas Hunger Alliance, and then a couple of other groups, and then myself. And so Larry Crutchfield is our sort of program manager for the state of Arkansas, and this group formed around this question to work with Larry. They have so much going on that we wanted to be sort of like literally the working group that can help bring some of these innovations and ideas forward. So the current status in Arkansas is that we are working on submitting an application that includes not just Amazon and Walmart, but also Kroger's, Harps, Hayes. We are working with the Arkansas Grocers Alliance, and they are helping us do that. And so the way that works is that to include another retailer, that retailer has to be recognized and authorized by USDA for us to include them in our application. So there's a lot of red tape, but it's not rocket science. It just requires a lot of patience. So you have to be eligible. I'm just going to click on that just to show you, what that means. And so what we're working on is to expand the definition of eligibility to include our farmers markets, food hubs, and direct sales on farms. So the eligibility requirements are either in this bucket, criterion A, or this bucket, staple food sales. And this is, fairly technical, but also pretty straightforward. And so the case that we are making is that farmers markets fall within the criterion A. And so we've been in several conversations with the Undersecretary's office at the USDA, and they have encouraged us to proceed with this line of sort of aggregating all of the different definitions of retail grocers so that we can really spread out these SNAP dollars as much as possible through smaller stores, smaller communities. There's about $500 million in SNAP revenue that comes through the state, and as much as we can support our farmers markets and local farmers who may have been previously relying on farm to institution contracts, whether it's farm to school or whatever, that we can really just show some resiliency and build some resiliency so that even post-COVID, we have expanded the marketplace for these vendors and in a way that really anchors parity for the retailer, but then also expands equity for the consumers. And so the way that the process will go is that once we have all of our letters of support together, then, which we have quite a few right now, we're just waiting on our other retail grocers to get recognized by USDA. And Secretary Gillespie has approved the procedures that we're working with and the model that we're using, and is very supportive of including these other retailers in our initial application. So it looks like as of today that we're hoping to have the applications, all of our materials together and ready to roll, at least in draft form, by this coming Friday, and then have our application, that draft sort of suite, if you will, of all the materials required, reviewed and ready to send out to USDA by the following Friday. So it's going to take a minute, but it's definitely happening, and I'm really encouraged by just the cooperative spirit that everybody has brought together, and like really good questions. Like, we're having weekly calls every Tuesday at 11. Any of y'all are welcome to join us. But so in today's call, we identified some pretty significant kind of just policy bottlenecks about how all of these programs work together. So like pandemic EBT, what does that mean and how does it interact with SNAP benefits? Is PEBT eligible for double up bucks? I'll let Jeremy talk about that. And how does it, how can this moment be an opportunity to talk about increasing community eligibility provision, participation, et cetera? So I'll stop there, and maybe it sounds like we're going to do Q&A at the very end. So I'll just pause right here and let Jeremy go, and then I look forward to hearing your questions and then also any insights that you guys might have. So I will stop sharing.
Thanks, okay, Melissa. And I will try to pop that webpage in the chat for everybody if they want to take a look at that. That was interesting to hear about the different criteria. And Jeremy, are you still with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Sure, yeah. Whenever you're ready, we're happy to hear from you. If anybody has a question, we will be doing a Q&A towards the end. So Melissa and Jeremy will both stay on with us, and we'll open it up for that discussion at that point. So Jeremy, whenever you're ready.
Okay. My name is Jeremy Adams, and I work for the Arkansas Coalition for Obesity Prevention. If you're not familiar with our organization, it's arkansasobesity.org. It's all one word there. And then when you get to that site, if you look at under what we do, you'll see Double Up Food Books at the very top. That will take you to a list of sites we're working with this year, as well as a couple of videos about how the program works, as well as my contact information. So those of you that aren't familiar with Double Up Food Books, this is a program that we've been working on since 2016 here in Arkansas. Basically, it's a double coupon for SNAP recipients if they'll shop and buy local food at one of our participating locations. We primarily do this at farmers markets, and we do have a grocery partner. A lot of folks don't realize that SNAP is more than just food stamps. This has always been a tool used in time of disaster. That could be, somebody's house got blown away in a tornado, and then part of the relief that the federal government, sends out is in the form of disaster SNAP. Arkansas is kind of an interesting state because prior to the whole COVID issue, we had a very high percent of population of people that qualified for SNAP benefits based on their income, but did not receive them for one reason or another. So when you combine that with the current issue of COVID, we're going to have a pretty large SNAP issue here in Arkansas in the near future. And one silver lining to the COVID issue is, local food has been looked at by more people than usual as a viable source for food. And this is a great time for our local farmers markets and farmers to participate in SNAP. We consider this a win-win-win program because families that need access to healthy food get it. The money goes in the farmer's pocket, and that ends up staying in the local community. At the farmer's market, it's actually the best deal because the SNAP customer has the opportunity to buy anything under the Cottage Food Act, eggs, meat. They can spend up to $20. That's the maximum I can match with Double Up Food Bucks. So let's say they bought $10 worth of eggs and $10 worth of meat. Then they can get $20 in Double Up Food Bucks for free. So they can basically walk away with $40 worth of food. The catch is that extra $20 that they get in matching funds are restricted to fruits and vegetables. The way we accomplish this at the farmers market, ideally there's one SNAP machine that's going to be at the hospitality or welcome table. That's where your signage for SNAP is going to be posted, and that's where the SNAP customer goes to swipe that card. It really keeps every vendor from having to have a machine, which is very cost prohibitive. And that customer is going to get issued tokens. So one color token is for SNAP because it's less restrictive because I can buy those meat and eggs. And then the other token it's going to be a different color, and that's restricted to just fruits and vegetables. So then that customer is able to go out in the market and shop with any of the participating vendors that are selling food. This last year, we worked with 24 farmers markets around Arkansas and 13 grocery locations. When that all totaled up for the season, we did about 5,400 SNAP transactions at those locations. We only offer this incentive on local fruits and vegetables. I do define local as a 400-mile radius from where it's sold. But we ended up selling about $34,000 in local produce just at farmers markets that participated in this program. That's $34,000 worth of food that they would not sell if they didn't accept SNAP. I mean, that's quite a bit of money. We also generated just shy of 500 new customers at those farmers markets, which is another great talking point. This not only develops new customers that have never shopped at these locations before, they become repeat customers, and end up using the incentive throughout the entire season. Currently, there's a couple of options for free equipment, and I'm more than willing to help anybody that's interested in participating in SNAP at their food sale location, whether that's a farmer's market, farm stand, direct marketing farmer, or, you know, independent grocery store. If you're a direct marketing farmer or farmer's market, there's two options for free equipment. The state has a contract that provides landline equipment. There is a way to make that work at the market with a phone call. It takes about 10 to 12 minutes to process a transaction. That might be a good way to start until you build a little bit of a customer base, because most of the time these SNAP customers think this is kind of a too good to be true deal. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that at the market. I think if we really want to make our local food system more sustainable, we really need to look at making all the customers in our community part of that local food system. And this is a really good way to do that, and the farmer makes more money. I'm going to be open for questions. You know, I can go a lot of different ways with this. But really when it comes right down to it, this is a process that does take a little bit of time to get worked out. I mean, you have to apply with the USDA as the first starting point. And then once you're approved there, that opens up the opportunities for the free equipment, things like that. Honestly, the majority of markets in our state and farm stands don't participate in SNAP for one reason or another. But there's a lot of opportunity here, and our COP and myself would love to help you navigate that and get set up to participate in Double Up Food Months. So Rep, I'm going to send it back to you, and you know, I'll stick around for questions and be happy to connect with anybody by phone or email.
Sure, Jeremy. Thank you. We appreciate that. I would be interested in hearing about the barriers that you were talking about, why maybe more markets don't involve SNAP, but we can save that if, you know, other people have other pressing questions. There was a couple of questions in chat. I think Alex asked, and Melissa was able to answer that. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, we'll open it up. Amanda, did you have anything you wanted to bring up as well at this point?
I think maybe just reviewing Alex's question and
Sure.
what the response was would be good just for the recording.
Of course, yep. Let's see. So Alex asked, so to clarify, Arkansas's application for online SNAP will be going in a couple of weeks at all those retailers, including Kroger, farmers markets. Just was asking about the timeline, and Melissa replied, so after Arkansas submits its online SNAP application to the USDA, the turnaround time will be about 10 to 14 days. So conservatively, I'm hoping that it's fully available at all those locations by mid-June. So looking like maybe in the next, 2 to 3 weeks, or we're at the end of May, right? 3 to 4 weeks, conservatively. Did you have anything else, Melissa, you wanted to share?
I was just going to say, it may be that we are not able to include all of the retailers that we would like to in our initial application, just in the, for expediency's sake. But once we're approved and as a state and participating, then it's just a matter of like submitting a form to add additional retailers. So the main thing that we wanted to do with this working group is just to hold open the door a little bit wider for who gets to come through in our state application, so that we can make the case that, it's to our advantage that, Walmart headquarters are here, because it makes a great case statement that this is a group effort, and that we understand that when our local food systems are strong, then it benefits everybody. And so we've had stakeholders from the Walmart corporate office, and then some Walmart folks from their DC office as well, helping shape some of the policy discussions. And so it's really been a great opportunity just to reinforce that a kind of like, you know, Notion, Arkansas thing of like some homegrown solutions that if we're successful in getting this policy connection all the way through between the farmers market side. So if we can like bring our Department of Ag through this application with the Department of Human Services, then we'll be the first state in the nation to do that. And so that will be the pilot that the rest of the country can use, because the states that are coming online now, they, you know, it's such a fluid policy space and things are moving so rapidly that they're just using the template from the pre-COVID 4 states, where, and that's fine. I mean, that's what you do when you need to get a move on. But this is kind of our chance to catalyze those relationships that we have with one of, you know, the 2 primary participants. Having Walmart participation is really pivotal. And of course, you know, one of their representatives is the chair of the state economic recovery task force with the governor. And so this is a really great opportunity and policy window for us to make these connections as much as we can. So we have a template for letters of support. If anybody wants to send that to me, Larry Crutchfield and his team put together, you know, just a real basic template that you could customize. And I feel like that, you know, like I said, we have a lot of support, not just from the state level, but from Senator Bozeman's office, and then also at headquarters in DC for USDA. But I think that it carries a lot of weight to show the diversity in our coalition of all the different agencies and organizations that can see ways in which increasing online SNAP benefits, you know, our community, whether it's the farming community or access to healthy foods community, or, you know, just looking at public health. I mean, social determinants of public health is, you know, really the driver that we want to be looking at. And so whether that's economic health or food access health, we really want to take this moment to kind of celebrate the relationships that we have and the cooperative nature of how everybody has been just a real team player around this question. So.
Yeah, and if you, Melissa, if you want to share that template either with me and I can give to the group, there is a file upload function on the chat, but I don't know if we want to attempt that with bandwidth and all that stuff. So if you have something you want to send me.
Yeah, I'll do both. I'll attach it and in the chat, but then I'll also send it to you so that you, you know, one way or another, everybody will have access to it.
Yeah, for those that don't have
then
access
I'll also
to chat.
Yeah, we also have a Google folder in which we're creating a spreadsheet and copies of everybody's letters of support. So I can also send you a link to that folder, because we definitely want this to be an open, collaborative, and transparent process. So we've been putting some of the requirement documents in there, as well as one of the things that the working group this morning determined that we were really needing for a variety of reasons is we need an in-state sort of FAQ sheet about, like, who was this apply to, how does this work, how does pandemic EBT relate to SNAP, and why is it that some people why are there 2 different cards, you know, for the pandemic EBT? Anyway, that's a little bit off topic, but yeah, I'll send you a link for that folder, and anybody who wants to add resources to that or to pick up those, that's what I'll do. Rather than try to attach a file, I'll just send the link to that folder, and the letter of support template is in that.
Sure, yeah, there's a lot of technical things that I think would help with an FAQ. I do want to mention, I think Alex and Ruth, I saw your comment. I will read that in 1 second, but Alex had a follow-up. Any sense if on gets approved, what that could mean for the online WIC? I don't know if anyone has any expertise in that program or has an insight into that. All right. Well, you stumped us. You stumped us, Alex. Maybe someone will think of something in a minute. But Ruth made a comment here. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
I was just going to say that I feel like that what I'm seeing, the pattern that I'm seeing anyway, is that once states get their online SNAP application in and resolved and up and running, then WIC follows behind because, the purchasing requirements are the part of the bottleneck for online SNAP, and how one of the things that each retailer has to tell USDA in their application to get approved is how they will sort. You can buy, a can of black beans, but you can't buy toothpaste. You all know that. But like, how does the store at the checkout know that? What's their cart function that knows that? And so there's a third-party verification platform called Fiserv that the USDA requires each of those retailers to go through in order to do that. And it's a PIN scrambler. It's, there's a bunch of fraud protection issues in there as well. So once the online SNAP protocols have been approved, then I am not a WIC expert, so I could be like completely wrong. But what I'm seeing is that WIC follows behind that.
Thanks, Melissa. All right, Alex gave the thumbs up, so perfect. Ruth had mentioned she has a large SNAP population in their very rural area. We don't have a large number of sales, but I think it would grow quite a bit if we could offer SNAP. So Ruth, feel free to unmute if you want to add anything to that. But Jeremy, I know you had sort of touched on sort of barriers. Melissa, chime in if you'd like. Amanda, if you have anything you want to say. Anybody want to comment on that? Or Ruth, if you have anything further to mention?
Yeah, I just think that we had looked into the machine for taking SNAP a while back, and there was a monthly charge and a regular charge for the equipment. I didn't know, now we have a square machine. Is there a way to run that through that and be part of the program so that we don't have to, like I said, our sales are kind of low as far as that goes. I'm hoping that they would grow, but it doesn't quite justify purchasing the equipment or the monthly fee that was being charged. That may have changed though.
Ruth, what community are you from?
I'm over in Harriet in Searcy County, but I'm about 25 minutes outside of Marshall.
Yeah, I know where you're at. We've worked with Searcy County Farmers Market before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the monthly fee for equipment is about $40.
Yeah.
That's after your grant money runs out, that sort of deal. With one SNAP customer spending $20 and matching it with $20, I mean, that covers the cost in one customer
Mm-hmm.
there. Unfortunately, if the market has had, authorization before and equipment before, they're not eligible for that equipment grant, unfortunately. It may be worth trying the state equipment that's free. You have to make a phone call for each transaction to the USDA and actually
Mm-hmm.
put a hold on the funds on the card. Then you have 14 days to plug the equipment up and process those transactions.
So the question is, there's no way to run it through a Square. Is there, if I've already got the Square equipment and I can slide a card or chip it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
3 years ago, that technology was available, and that company, Novadia, got shut down. And I'm not sure if they're back up and allowed to operate yet.
I see.
Sandy, it looks like you were shaking your head. Did you want to chime in? I know you have a phone with you.
I'm also on the phone, so if you get
Oh no.
figured out a way to incorporate Square, maybe
Sandy,
you
I
want me
think,
to be on my phone. Are you
yeah,
hearing me?
you cut out. You're kind of chopping in and out. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right. You can put it in the chat if you'd like, if you have something you want to say. Sorry.
There we go. Is that working? Now You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry. Yes, Square, that was a real challenge for us because that's how we track inventory. So when you're using two different POS systems, trying to track your SNAP customers, it gets complicated. We figured out a way in Square to put modifiers in for both SNAP and Double Up Food Bucks so that we still can track inventory, but it's not being charged to Square. In other words, we have to go back and by hand take those transactions out and still use the POS for SNAP for the EBT. So it's a little harder. Does anyone else have a way to track inventory on the POS for EBT?
Not that I'm aware of, Sandy. I mean, I think you're the only location I work with that really tracks their inventory.
Okay.
All right, and Alex, he has a question here. Have we seen in other states that have implemented the online SNAP, have the SNAP sales increased in those states? Melissa, did you have any insight with your research?
Yes, so it's fairly informal right now because the data is just, you know, super fresh and so many different states are coming on. I see the second part of your question is the name of the third-party verification for retailers. It's called FISERV, FISERVE. And so I also wanted to address a question that Sarah and Jenny asked earlier in an email before this discussion, which was how would farmers markets and/or food hubs, etc., become a recognized partner? And so the recommendation that we are getting is for, specific to your question, Sarah and Jenny, like if it was the Food Conservancy, then they would need to follow that retailer's application and their criterion A, and to be able to just go through all those steps, just like Hayes grocery store, just like Kroger, whatnot. It's not a matter of how big the retail grocer is. It's just a matter of whether it meets the criteria laid out in the eligibility provisions. So a farmer's market typically can hit all of those eligibility provisions because it is looking for, you know, a combination of different food items. So really the main thing that they want to clarify is whether it's like prepared foods and whatnot, so which is still not eligible. So, I mean, that's a whole nother policy discussion, but for the purposes of increasing online SNAP and bringing these two programs together, my advice for farmers markets and CSAs as well, and food hubs is to go through that retailer application link. And if it's not in there in the links I sent earlier, I'll double check and make sure that it's in the chat for you guys.
And again, just Melissa, send them over to me and we'll follow up with folks about all that too. Did anyone have any other questions? Did we miss any in the chat? I was trying to review it.
I don't think so, Rip. I looked
Okay.
This is Jenny. Melissa, I have a little bit of a follow-up question for you. So for example, say a farmer's market or a food hub is looking to be able to accept EBT, and they're looking at different third-party processor options. And they're planning to, you know, if they're eligible to be able to accept SNAP online, should I steer them towards FISERV? Is that going to be the only third-party processor for online sales? And what does that mean for markets if they are using a different provider?
So the simplest way that I can kind of wrap my own head around it and then to spit it back out to make it, you know, like make sense is that The exact situation that Ruth was talking about and that Sandy was talking about is in the how much red tape and how leggy it is and how time intensive and labor intensive it is to make online farmers markets available to these customers is crazy talk, and it's not efficient. And so, for example, the Fayetteville Farmers Market, they're doing some manual processes. They have a whole separate pickup line. They did that one Saturday where they had a whole separate pickup line for SNAP customers, and then that became apparent immediately that that's not okay, because that's like having free and reduced lunch kids in one line and full pay kids in another line for school lunches. So can't do that. So the idea with getting farmers markets and these other types of vendors to submit an application through the retail portal is that Fiserv is the verification platform, whereas, for example, in Ruth's situation or in Sandy's situation, maybe, you should be able to use whatever sort of second-party platform, if you will, whether it's Square or Barn to Door, or those things should be optional depending on what your market has decided works for you. But then the verification platform for everybody, no matter if you're Walmart or CSA or whoever, the USDA's designated third-party verifier is Fiserv. But you don't have to contact them directly. That's part of the application process. You just go to that link and follow the instructions.
And so will markets, should they expect to pay any sort of fees for Fiserv?
As far as I can tell, so far, it doesn't seem like it. That's part of why, it's really helpful to walk through this process with the working group. The main expense has been just the time involved in submitting the application. So there's not a charge to apply to USDA, and there's not a monthly fee from USDA to the actual market. So ideally, it's not going to be like you pay whatever your fee is to Square or Barn to Door, whatever that second party platform is, and then you have another fee to Fiserv. That's not the case. So
Okay.
it's just whatever. So it's just whatever you're normally using for your swipes for your regular customers. Our goal is to unify the process so that whether you are using an EBT card, a Visa card, a debit card, or whatever, that the vendor only has to do one thing. And then that simplifies the whole process, but then also hopefully in freeing up some of the really intensive labor expectations from farmers markets and whatnot to do this manually, that will free up our farmers market managers and CSA folks and then independent retailers to really focus on increasing outreach and participation in double bucks and, the things that drive market expansion, especially, the point that Ruth was making about rural communities is so important for access to healthy food. And, I grew up in a town in Arkansas that was so small that we didn't even call the town next to us by its name. It was just town. We're going to town for groceries. So I relate to that. And I feel like that this is one way in which that we can really address that, and why personally to me, it's important to make sure that we include some of our in-state independent grocers and smaller regional grocers. So in Northwest Arkansas, that's Harps, and in other parts of the state, it's Hayes. And, so we really just want to use this opportunity to spread those SNAP dollars out throughout the state as much as possible and get them into the hands of those economic benefits into the hands of our local producers and help them not just ride out this moment, but to have a stronger customer base on the other side of COVID.
All right, Melissa, I would like us to kind of summarize the overall talk into kind of two buckets. One is the task of getting this happening in Arkansas to begin with. So there's how do we get online SNAP, and what do you need support to make that happen? And then the kind of other bucket is then what do we do to educate how people can actually use it beyond just the stores that could do that. So the question would be, is there going to be some outreach to the stores, or I mean, are they just going to, you know, be sent an opportunity that says you can now accept SNAP online and they'll just be able to adapt it, or are we going to have outreach and training, you know, and things like that? So the first bucket is tell us what we need to do to help you in the committee make sure that we can get the system in place for Arkansas and be part of the pilot that we hope is not just a pilot.
So that's a good distinction. So it is, there are two definitely concurrent sort of parallel tracks happening here. And one is that Arkansas's application process. And so I think one of the best ways that folks can help is really just think about how it would benefit you and your customer and your, you know, whatever your program is, or your group of programs, or in Jenny's case, your advocacy community, who benefits from online SNAP expansion. And then if you can describe that in a letter of support, that's huge, because that's what we need, you know, is for people to really describe from your perspective, how does my constituency benefit, period. And just tell us about that so that we can submit it together, because it's going to make, it just strengthens the case of the application. And then how will retailers, the second question, how will retailers be engaged? And so that's been part of the working group's goal for the past couple of weeks. So Charlie Speaks with the State Grocers Association has really taken the lead on that and has reached out to all of their members just to let them know that this opportunity to apply to be recognized as an online SNAP retailer is open. And the deadline for retailers is, you know, it's not hard and fast, but we want to keep this moving, because otherwise if we wait for everybody, then that means, you know, from my perspective, from public health perspective, that means that people aren't able to shop online. And I'm actually really concerned that we're about to have another big surge. So I'm just trying to like get ready. So that the retailers that have indicated that they want to participate, we're providing technical support. You know, for example, Harps has an issue in that they use Instacart, and that they're in 3 states because they're in Northeast Oklahoma, Southwest Missouri, and Northwest Arkansas. And so like that's a policy knot right there that we're trying to help them untangle a little bit. So all the retailers that want to participate, that have indicated that they want to participate, we're trying to get all of their stuff in by this Friday. And then any retailer, and then there'll be a big press release, you know, from the governor's office and Secretary Gillespie, and, you know, those, the state agency voice will have a press release that lists all of the eligible or available retail participants. But in that press release, we will also include an invitation for anybody who is not currently recognized as the USDA retailer to please engage, and we'll try to get you in there. So it doesn't, like I said, you know, once our application is in, it's not like you're either in or you're out. We can add folks, you know, steadily once the state's plan is recognized.
That's great to know that we can add on afterwards and you don't have to get everybody in by Friday. So that's really good news. I mean, would there be, I mean, we can send out through our newsletter. Should we put a request out for farmers markets or local food stands to get on this list before Friday? Do you need that kind of support, or are you mostly focused on the larger scale, like grocers?
Yeah, I'd say that it really it can't hurt. Like the more, the better. My only concern would be that some of the smaller farm stands and whatnot might require technical support that is necessary, and we definitely want to do that. But then they might feel like a little stressed out by a Friday deadline. So
and I think that too, and that's why I was like, if we can wait, I think we can maybe do an education on how to sign up later.
I think that would be really helpful if we can just get this core group sort of through.
Right.
Then that will show us sort of the policy track that we can then turn around and reflect back to the rest of our Arkansas community and say, like, okay, here's the map. Let's go this way. We've already said, like, one group of people have been successfully completed the journey, if you will, from application to fully engaged in commerce, and here's how it's working. And ideally it would be somebody who's participating would turn around and help us educate. Like, this is what I had to do, and this is, so that we could have that first person voice.
I just wanted to say, I think, Amanda, you had asked if it was FISERV or FISERV. Just for the people that are not able to see chat, FISERV. Sarah Lane had replied, or FISERVE. Melissa, do you know how it's spelled? Or if that's right? Well, I guess, Sarah, you were saying that you're on the team or something with them, so. FISERV.
I'm just going to double check and look it up, but I don't think it has an E on it.
Okay.
So,
And then Jenny had asked a question. Who do we put them in contact with for TA? I'm not sure what TA was for.
Technical assistance.
Technical assistance. Thank you.
Who do we put them in contact? Them being your folks that you're working with, is that right? Uh-oh.
Yes, and it sounds like the question was kind of just answered, that there would be maybe some sort of training or resource provided for those smaller markets after these initial retailers figure out the process.
Right. Yeah, I think that we have a letter of support from the Food Conservancy as well as the Fayetteville Farmers Market, and we just got one yesterday from the Siloam Springs Farmers Market. Again, I'll put those all in our online SNAP Google folder that you guys can look at and use as a resource to the extent.
If we are approved for this pilot, I mean, we'd be happy to use one of these sessions to do an education on how to get everything going. Of course, we don't have the knowledge of how to do that, but we'd be happy to host someone else who has the knowledge and to make a space for that education, and maybe work with the Farmers Market Association and reach out to our vendor list, and maybe the Arkansas Ag Department can reach out to their vendor list, and we can host a training similar to what we're doing today, but how to walk people through that. Of course, I definitely have no knowledge of how to do that and would rely on someone else who's been through the process. So.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. And then we could also, for sure, invite somebody from USDA to participate as well, so that we've got, sort of both sides of that coin represented, from like, I want to apply, but how do I do it? And then USDA's perspective of like, we want you to engage, but there's also security concerns, protection of vulnerable community concerns, etc. And so, like, bringing those two together, like after we get approved, I think that would be really cool and very helpful, Amanda.
Sure. And I mean, what Alex is alluding to is this like policy window, like something is starting to open here. Are we going to get online, food assistance programs ongoing? And hopefully this, policy window opens and this does continue, and it's not just a kind of blip in time that we lose the traction on. So having worked in policy for 10 years, usually if you get the ball rolling down the hill, it keeps going. So.
Yeah, it's a good point though. This is one of those moments, you know, where the analogy that comes to mind is like, you know, if you're at the water park and there's the dump bucket, you know, that dumps all the water on like all the kids who are waiting. It's like, which one is the last drop that dumps the bucket over, you know? And so that's kind of how our policy environments work, is that like we just steadily build and build and build towards stuff and fill that bucket up. And then hopefully, you know, continuing the analogy, we can pour it out and it spreads out all over the state. So in a good way. And I'm encouraged by everybody's participation. The only other thing that I would say is that there's another stitch in the step outside of the technical issues of how to engage in online SNAP. And that's part of looking at how this relates to the pandemic EBT and the seamless summer programs with USDA. And so I think that that's another piece of technical support that we are going to be called on to provide information about. Is that like, how's that going to work? Because like, for example, some of our seamless summer sites are not open or are partially open or have restricted openings. And so what does that look like? And the USDA has waived the requirement that students must be present with their parents or guardians when they pick up their, you know, some different districts are doing it differently all over the country and all over the state. But for example, in in the Fayetteville School District, even though USDA has waived the requirement that students must be present, the Fayetteville School District is still requiring that every child must be present. And so we're really trying to focus on education with district personnel about how that's an equity issue and how it's an access issue, because it's a great program. It's only available on Tuesdays, and it's enough food for the whole week, and we're super supportive of that. However, it's only from 11 to 1, and a lot of our frontline community is at work because if they don't go to work right now, then they're going to get laid off, and you know, like this whole escalating series of events. And so access is really what we're most critically focused on, and making sure that like our policy leaders, but also policy implementers like school districts really understand why we recommend the adoption of this policy or that policy. Like, so if the USDA is saying that your kids don't need to come with you to the school to pick up the food, there's a reason for that. And some districts are concerned about, I don't even know what, but you know, if there are issues about accountability, then you can use your districts can use students' PIN numbers and whatnot. But the main thing is that if they don't keep their numbers up for participation, then that's going to affect next year's school lunch budget, which then to come back around to our conversation is going to impact farm to school programs and procurement policies in the state. So all of these are kind of in the same swirl together. And I feel like that, you know, one of the great things about having such a good working coalition between Extension and the Hunger Relief Alliance and our other, and Department of Ag and UAMS, our other working partners, is that all of your different areas of expertise are critical right now. And so, you know, and thinking about like, what does a frequently asked questions document look like? I mean, we have questions, not just the community. Like, I think we're trying to figure out how to do this as well. So,
no, good points, Melissa. And I mean, we've got a lot of work ahead, and it is great to have such a great group working on all of this. And I do think, though, I mean, the topic that we're covering today, it's novel. People don't understand it. I mean, even, you know, myself, I mean, I've studied Melissa for years, and I'm still kind of like, tell me, what are you saying? Explain this to me more, you know? And so I think I think there's a lot of understanding to be had. We need to work on figuring out how to support this. I mean, if we can get the pilot, what is that going to look like? How does it translate to change in the community? How do people get access to it, knowledge about it, all of those things. So, so thanks for the work that you guys are doing. And I know this is kind of just like the beginning of it. And hopefully once the application's in, we get approved and we join with the other states to be a part of this. And then we'll kind of, I guess, problem solve as we go to figure out how to make it actually work if we get it. So, so thanks for the work that Melissa and Sarah and everybody else who's been involved in that work you guys are doing. I guess let us know about how to join the conversation on Tuesday as well. There may be people who are on that would like to be a part of that conversation. So if you can share that with us as well, Melissa.
You bet.
Jeremy, did you have anything? Are you still with us? I know you've been having some phone issues on other calls. I think you're still unmuted.
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
You know, if somebody's interested in doing double up food bucks at their location, I can help them look and see how many households in their community receive benefits, and how much money that equates out to per year. And that really makes a big difference in my mind on how workable it is. I know Ruth mentioned Searcy County, and that's a really tough place to make this program work just because there's so few people there. It's really a numbers game. I heard the community of Paragould in this conversation today as well. And Paragould is really an ideal community for this program. I've looked at the numbers there, and there's almost $900,000 a year in SNAP money in the zip codes around Paragould. And I can't get their farmers market to participate in double up food bucks. You know, there's a tremendous customer base there, and they're just missing that opportunity. But I'm more than willing to, you know, help you. You guys can find my contact info on ARCOP's website. You know, shoot me an email or call me, and I'll help you start walking through this process.
Well, thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I mean, I think there is lots of opportunity. Sorry, go ahead. I don't know who that was.
Oh, I was just going to ask Amanda real quick. Do we have is there an extension agent in, I'm not sure what county Paragould is in, that could help Jeremy in engaging the farmers market?
That's Greene County.
Did you say Greene or Grant? It's not.
Yeah, it's Greene County.
Greene, okay. Let me see here. There are a couple of agents there who I think, you know, I've worked with, is Dave Freeze is the ag agent there, and I actually have worked with Dave before, and he is interested in small farms work and local food, and I've heard him talk about farmers market before, so I wouldn't put it past him to have tried to address this already, but you know, if you haven't reached out to him, Jeremy, have you spoke with Dave Freeze?
I don't believe I have, no.
I can put his contact in the chat for you, but he attends a lot of our programming, so all right, I can't chat you because you're on the phone, but we can
yeah, Amanda, could you just maybe do an introduction email between the two of them and connect those up, because I think that a lot of times, you know, coming from a small county myself, like, you kind of need like that third party policy broker. And so like, well, if the extension service agent says it's okay, then it must be legit. So I think that would help.
And I actually have been talking directly with a couple of farmers up there, and they're sort of on the fence. And I do think that would help maybe push somebody over the edge.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. So I'd be happy to do that. And Melissa, you started talking about the school meals programs, and we are going to have Allie Mirchek from the Fayetteville School District on next week, or the next time in 2 weeks, to talk about some of those issues and to talk about how the program is working, what's working, what's not working, and all of that. And then also Sarah's going to talk about farm to school overall as well. So we're going to cover some of those topics at the next local foods discussion. But some of those are issues that are not easily solved with some of those access issues. Are important things for us to focus on. But I have to commend Allie on the work that she's been doing. I mean, to get all those meals together and out to the kids and all that stuff, I'm just like, wow. But then to think about some of those barriers, I know that's probably pulling at her heartstrings too, trying to solve some of those problems. So, but we'll hear more about that in a couple of weeks. So that's all I have for today. Melissa, Jeremy, do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
No, thank you so much for the invitation to speak and to hear y'all's good questions. And again, I'll put the link to the online SNAP Google folder. I'll send it to Jeremy, to Rip, actually. It sounds like that's the best thing to do. And then you guys can, I'll make a separate folder for letters of support so you don't have to like weed through like a whole bunch of stuff. And if you want to just like pop in there, the template will be in there as well as the letters that we currently have in the hopper.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan, Melissa. Just send me whatever if you want to include those links as well. For anyone that maybe couldn't see the chat, I can forward those over to folks. And we do appreciate both of you. As Amanda said, we do have our next discussion coming up on the 8th of June. It will be back to Mondays. So we bumped it to today because of the holiday yesterday. 2:30, and so again, Allie Ruchek and Sarah Lane will both be speaking there more about the school meals. So Amanda, I'll turn over to you to wrap us up and have anything else to say.
Just if there are any other like topics, you know, with the reopening, people are starting to get a little bit comfortable with going out in public and not paying attention to kind of crisis management. And I feel like they're kind of walking away from these kinds of resources a bit because they're wanting to get back to normal. But as Melissa pointed out, I do think that we may have a couple more spikes that happen before we're through all of this. So we're going to continue to host these local foods discussions. And if there are any other topics that we need to cover, issues that people are dealing with, we're happy to kind of feature that. I guess it'll be a month from now or 4 weeks from now. So if there's anything else that you feel that's an important topic to cover, please let us know. You can email myself or Rip or Julia a topic if you have one. And then unless you have something that you'd like to talk about now.
I have a
I
question.
just added my email to the chat if anyone wants to send over topics.
Hey, Leanne.
Hey, I'd like to tell you how much I appreciate Sarah and Karen getting that new information for us about the farmers market and the flower business from our last meeting. But then I received the constant contact email. So the vendor restrictions as far as artisans crafts, those have all been lifted so that they can be there too? Okay, I just wanted to make sure because that's what I was telling people, and I thought, Lord, I hope I am telling them correctly. So everyone is excited. Our flower people are just thrilled to peanuts, and our craft people are excited too. We're supposed to open up the second weekend in June, second Saturday. So we're getting all geared up for it and ready to go. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't telling people the wrong thing. Thank y'all.
You're good, Leanne. Thank you.
Glad you guys are opening. Yay. I know you were questioning it there for a second, so that's great news. Did anyone else have any comments, questions, thoughts?
Yeah, this is Jeremy. It might be good to do an update on any COVID-19 precautions that markets need to take at the beginning of next month. You know, if anything changes between now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. If we have, if anything backtracks. So yeah, we definitely can. So if there are any policy updates that come from ag or health departments or anything from the CDC that's going to change what we can and cannot do, we will definitely provide an update on that.
And I think we do have a new updated policy document in the works on our team. I'm trying to post things on our social media. Julia does our newsletters that go out. So just everyone check those. We'll try to keep you guys updated as best we can.
Well, thanks for all the great work that you guys are doing, and stay in touch, and join us for the next one in 2 weeks if we don't see you before at some other meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And stop the recording.